Why are you back under the dash, bro? What's going on?
I'm just pulling the auto computer out. Just show you what we've done with the auto wiring. This is the transmission plugs here. So pretty much everything I need for the wiring is located at these plugs. So what I've done is track down a power for a start, which I've cut off. And to do the torque converter lockup, I've used the hold button on the center console, which basically sends power directly to this wire here.
Where's the hold button?
The hold button's there. So just utilising the switches that are already in the car, so you don't have to add anything. So that one's pretty straightforward. It's basically you just grab that hold button wire, because it's already sending a 12 volt to this wire at the plug here, and then I've cut off the torque converter solenoid wire and just joined them together. So when you flick that hold button, the converter locks up, our light comes on there. It's a little bit hard to see, but it's kind of, this isn't really a dumb person's car. It's not an automatic anymore. It's a manually shifted transmission, so you do have to use your brains when you're driving it. It all becomes pretty much second nature after you've driven it for a little bit, changing gears and knowing which button to flick on and off. Don't really use a converter lock much, because it really dulls the response of the engine not having the converter in between. It's mainly just for flat 100 kilometre an hour sort of driving, and you just leave it on when you're doing that sort of cruising. So the other wire we needed was to actually power up the solenoid that allows it to go into overdrive or fourth gear. Problem with that is it's got a button on the shifter here, as you can see, which is for that purpose. It's kind of a lockout button that Nissan used at the time, and so did Toyota. But it's actually a ground, so I couldn't just connect it straight up like I did with the torque converter. So it's got to go through a relay just to change the polarity, basically. So I've just added a relay there. I've used a changeover relay because when you press that button to turn it on, it would turn the light off on the dash or the other way around. So I've used a changeover relay, so it when your overdrive is turned off, so it's not going to go into fourth, there's a light on the dash that says overdrive off, so you've sort of got that to refer to when you're driving along, so you don't get confused about what gear you're in. So that all just clicks over, works perfect. The rest of the time you just got to put it into gear, into 1, 2 or 3, click it for fourth, and off you go. So that's pretty much all there is. It's very, very simple compared to what it was before, and that sort of keeps things, keep it simple, means it's got less things to go wrong. Bonnet's on, bumper's on, we've been for a test drive, everything seems to be working good. Just got to make the Snorkel now. You've all seen me weld stainless steel before, so it's nothing interesting, and I don't want to trigger all the welders in the YouTube comment section by doing it wrong, so I'll do it the easy way this time. Done.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah, I don't know what all the fuss is about. So I've done a few other things to the car as well. We've had some aircon lines made. This has an aftermarket compressor on it because it was out of a Ute, the old silver top. So we had to make new lines for it. If you have a genuine compressor, you can actually just bolt the TD42 compressor to the bracket and all the lines will just fit, which is obviously a lot easier, but in this case I couldn't do that, so just had Shane and Olcock work their magic with some soldered on fittings that allow you to use normal hose. So that's all done, aircon works. I've added a catch can, which is just a generic sort of eBay type can. You can unbolt the top of these, so I unbolt the top and fill it up with some really coarse stainless steel wool, and that has the effect of catching any droplets, so it actually does work as a separator rather than just a big hollow canister. So that's basically straight out of your breather off the top of your engine there on the back of the cover. Comes around. That does have a separator of sorts in it already, but add this along the way and then it sort of minimises the amount of oil you get going down into your intake. All diesel engines will do that. They don't have a crankcase ventilation system because the diesel engine doesn't have any engine vacuum, so that can't work. So this is the system they use. Some European stuff would probably have some electronic solenoid control over it, and there's better versions of this you can use. But on an old thing like this is probably more than enough. If it's blowing out a lot of oil, it's probably just because the engine's worn, so keep that in mind. I've upgraded the engine fan and the fan hub. These things obviously known as, their nickname is the kettle. They are prone to overheating if everything's not spot on. So the fan that I put on it originally was just the TD42 fan, and it was actually very old and cracked and damaged anyway. So what I've done is did a bit of Googling and found that there's a coaster bus, so like a small minibus sort of thing, fan that can be used with the GQ hub. So I bought a brand new viscous hub, bolted that coaster bus fan on, which is a little bit bigger, and it's also got more blades, and it's also off a much heavier duty sort of application, and I've fitted all that up, so that's good to go. I had to put a new battery in it because high compression diesel, twice the size starter motor, and the older battery just didn't like it. So keep that in mind when you're budgeting for something like this. You're probably going to have to upgrade that. It's a diesel engine, so it obviously takes a bit more effort to start than an old low compression petrol engine. So it's all pretty much good to go now. Could do some more driving. Might throw it on a dyno and see what it shows up at the back wheels. Hopefully it'll register something.
Earlier you were glowing it by joining those two fat wires.
Mm.
Now you've bought that relay. You got to run us through how you start this rig.
Yeah, so it's got that circuit breaker and a heavy load relay up the front there, and I already ran wires in to the car with the main wiring loom. When I made the main loom, they just go to this button here on the dash. So it doesn't have a glow controller. You can use a aftermarket glow controller to do this, but I couldn't be bothered. It's a dude's car. Like, you just know how to do stuff like this in a car. So this only works when the key's on anyway. So key on, that's glowing. Hold on for a couple of seconds afterwards and off we go. Once the engine's warm, you don't need it. It'll just start. So just keeps you engaged with your vehicle.
There's Sally.
Yeah.
Sally. Sally? You don't remember Sally from the plane? And that snorkel's loud, isn't it?
Shut the window.
Problem solved.
See what sort of flexing we get.
That locker works well, doesn't it?
Not turned on. see what that looks like.
You were tucking some tyre there, bro. Bit of flex.
Flexing. So that's how penises are measured in the four-wheel drive world. How big your snorkel is and how big your flex is.
How big's your snorkel?
It's 4 inches all day long, brah.
So you happy with it, Al?
I'm happy with the way the car drives. I've had it on the road for about 3 weeks now. The auto works great. Manual shifting, you get used to it really quickly. It just sort of becomes a no-brainer. You don't even think about it.
Yeah, I stuffed it up when I drove it, taking off into the
Yeah,
third.
you only do that once or twice, and then it's just an automated thing in your head. So it drives great. It's pretty good around town. Like it uses half the fuel of the petrol engine, which is one of the goals. That's why they use diesels in big cars like this. The only problem is I have towed my dirt bike trailer, and I've also towed my camper trailer out to the dam, and it's just not powerful enough to maintain speed on the highway when you hit big hills. So I was hoping that it would be adequate, but it's just not. It's not a. I don't want it to be anything. It's not meant to be a fast car, but it's just not adequate at all. So we're going to have to do something to bring the power and the torque up.
You're towing a bit of weight with a camper trailer, though, aren't you?
Yeah, it's about 1,500 kilos, which is not really much, but plus a loaded car, and this car probably weighs 2,500 kilos. Which it's just the engine doesn't have the grunt, and it's not the engine that's the problem. It's got a turbo on it. That it's plenty of air running through the engine itself. With these diesels, your power output's basically controlled by the injector pump itself. So this one is, because it was an NA engine, it's got a what they would call a 10mm injector pump, and the 10mm on the VE Bosch type pump refers to the plunger size. So it's like it's basically the measured amount of fuel that can be delivered is governed by this plunger. So what they do is they upgrade them, so a turbo version of this engine would have an 11mm pump, so it obviously can deliver more fuel and has more power. The next thing they do is go up one more size to 12mm, which is I think they just rob parts out of other types of Bosch pump that are like they use that pump on a lot of engines, including Cummins 6BTs and stuff like that. So there's a lot of parts around that they can mix and match to make it work. It's a Zexel or diesel kicky pump, but it's licensed by Bosch, so it's basically they've just built a Bosch pump in Japan.
And this is a standard 10mm
Yeah,
non-turbo
standard.
pump.
That's pretty much what governs the power. So we've turned the fuel screw in half a turn. That's about all you can do. It's just out of fuel. It doesn't even blow smoke really. It's just that's as far as you can go. So what we got to do is just get the injector pump rebuilt. So I think we're going to have to, because I don't like doing 60 on the highway towing my van.
Maybe that's a job for...
Neither do other people.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be stuck behind you doing that either. Job for another day, eh?
Yeah.
Righto.
Got to be done.
Sweet. In the meantime, let's go ride those dirt bikes, eh?
Sweet. Go before the fuzz comes.
Next time on the Skid Factory, we get the injector pump rebuilt and extract a little bit more power from the TD42.